Hi everyone, it's Adrienne Leah. I'm going to show a couple things in this video. I have some works in progress. I'm going to adjust one of the projects. I um, have some things that I want to cast on that I wanted to talk about. I don't have my finished projects in this video. Um, they're drying, so they'll be in a video log and another video, but there are a couple of things that I'm excited about now that it's getting cooler. So, just before I start, I wanted to show my earrings. They're my wheat earrings, and I have worn them a lot over the years when I had the jewelry with me. I recently acquired my jewelry from my storage unit. I haven't switched out many things, but one of the incentives was to get the bracelet that my grandmother gifted me and use the beads and make it into a bracelet that I could wear a lot. So I accomplished that. Um, I got these containers that I wanted to put the jewelry in. I'm not going to carry my jewelry boxes for my next move right away, at least. But these are the ones that I got from the dollar store. I really love the design of them. They reflect. But I wanted to super glue them so it would be apothecary style. I wanted to get 4 of them so I could have 8 drawers. But this is okay for now. I might look in another Dollar Tree to see if I could find another one because they had a third one in the one that I was at. I love apothecary drawers. When I move, I'll have them, and I've always had herbs over the years, whether I got them myself or they were gifted to me. I got a lot of herbs from college, and they've just stuck around. I did get cases of herbs from the pharmacy, which was fantastic. They're mountain rose herbs. If you're in America, you might know them. If you love getting herbs, you might know them too, or other types of products. So I do like the stuff that they have. I think it's great quality, and it's what we carried at the pharmacy. So they came in these containers that I'm holding on to right now. They're in the storage unit. I feel like they'd be super useful. Um, One could say, why don't you just buy new containers when you get to your destination? And I consider that too, but for right now, I'll hold on to them. And it was interesting when I first started using herbs in various ways. I would have different ways that I would carry them. So when I first started with them, I would get um, different containers from thrift stores, and it was so fun. And I would put the herbs in. One of the main things that was important to me, which is maybe like not the best thing, but I didn't want to label them. So I had over 40 herbs and I didn't label them because I wanted to know which herbs were which. And I'm still here today. So it was a fun thing for me to do, and it still is. So one of the main things that you go through in these college courses, aside from, the medical um, the standard medical courses that you would have in the various medical fields is herb identification or plant identification. So that was also a fun thing. I will start showing my projects right now. So I did finish the Pray for Ukraine mittens, but I'm not finished with that pattern. It's still in me to continue to knit them. I did want to make a tarot bag using the chart. So I do have the chart on me, but I wanted to show my yarn for it first. So it's in this bag right now. This was given to me by the owner. She was at a convention and they gave her this bag. So it's one of those reusable bags and it could you could bag it into itself again. So it's the Chico bag, durable, purposeful, and responsible. And also retail promotions and fundraising. Um, and if you want to know, reusable bags packs and totes the stuff into a built-in pouch, helping humanity bag the single-use habit. And this has different supplement brands. So it is, okay. Nutranext, Rainbow Light, Neocell, and Natural Vitality. I've used Neocell and Natural Vitality, and I do like them. I haven't tried the other ones. So I use these yarns. So this is what I had left of the yellow. And this is what I have left of the blue. And this was with using the blue in another project, and then I used the rest of it to knit the mittens. So the yellow is the Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift in the colorway Cornfield. So I had multiple of the 25 grams, and then this one is in the colorway Royal. So this is a new skein that I bought because I was thinking maybe I would need a little more because I used it for another project, but I had this left. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make another bag and I'm gonna use this yarn for it. But it's not gonna be for the whole chart. I wouldn't have enough for the whole chart. Um, so this is what I used it for because this is using all the yarn that I had in stash. I didn't buy the yarn technically for this project. It is a test knit and I just needed to knit up to this where I separated for the sleeves. But that's the section that I used it for. And I really I really love the yarn. There is the Jamieson and Smith, the the label is faded, but there's another label. And I have this other yarn that I really love. So this is what I have left over of the yellow and blue of this one. So it's a different category or yarn for them. And I'll make something, but I'll have to use the yellow as the main color, which I've done before. It's funny because I didn't like that yarn at first, but then when I used it with different needles, now I love it. So let's see, it's a free pattern, and this is the pattern. So I'm going to I think I'm gonna do these two. I'm gonna make the blue the main color. And I wanted to show something that I got. I've been trying not to get stuff, but I get stuff that I am looking for and that I may use. So this is my knitting needle bag or case from IK Leather Shops. It's a Ukrainian Etsy shop, and I filled it with the needles. This has DPNs that aren't in my Knitter's Pride set because the ginger DPNs because they don't have these sizes. So I have a size 10 and 15, which are definitely for um, specific sweaters. And I just kept them in here for now. But I wanted something to fit in one of the sleeves here because there are two sleeves on each side. And I got this at my local yarn store, and I was really happy because I got the case and it fits. So I don't have the Addy needles. Technically, I have one DPN set that came with the Knit Like a Latvian mittens, but I ended up just using Magic Loop anyway. But I got this, so it's the Addy case, and it can hold various DPN sizes. So what I did is that I put sorry, everything's reflecting in this video, the different ChiaoGoo tips in here. So there's the 4 inch and then there's the 5 inch, which is the standard size. Um, of the extra ones that I have that I had in my other ChiaoGoo case, but I wanted to put the extras with this case because this case are needles that I use a lot. I think I might go back to my storage unit one more time to switch out a couple of things because I'm trying to think of the things that I really need and that I would like right away. Um, I think I'm only gonna go up to I'll only go up to 4 luggages. I know that's a lot, but um, you have to pay for that. And there's another thing that I feel like it's one of those moments where you're like life moves forward in specific ways because um, the furniture won't be in my storage unit for much longer because I'm gradually passing them on or like getting rid of them, and then the junk people will have their take on the other furniture that's there. And so my godmother lives with my aunt right now. So she's been living here for a couple of years. She's sick and her house is vacant. So my godmother told me to put my stuff in my aunt's house to store so I don't have to pay for my storage unit. So I was like, that is a thing. Um, I could wait until then, but I also want to get other things because you just want to see the other stuff that you have. I'm just gonna stretch a little bit so I'll be a little slanted. But I was gonna say something else. I do have a a pre-order that I placed a couple months ago, and it just shipped from Canada. It's the Arctic Knits book, and I am keen on getting certain books that I know the creator and well know who the creator is and the patterns that they have out. As the name suggests, it's Arctic knits like color work, and that's the area where the knitwear designer lives in. So I do love the different designs. I feel like for this book, it's one of those books that I can have the patterns, and when I knit them up, I could use these garments on an everyday basis, when the weather permits for me. And ideally, eventually living in somewhere in an area where I could use my knits a lot more, which will be coming. But one of the things about purchasing these books is that sometimes they have their books, like their patterns, on maybe Ravelry. I've seen this mainly on Ravelry. I can't really say for other sites that they might have, if they have their personal site or other websites. But um, sometimes when they come out with books, the patterns that they have on Ravelry become unavailable because they're in the book now. I I think it has to do with the copyright of um, rights of the books. I haven't looked too much into it, but I just know that I feel like pretty fortunate when I get the books, especially with like the Knitting Kabbalah. With the volume one, a lot of the patterns on the Ravelry site aren't available anymore because they're in her book. And her book sells out pretty frequently. So when I saw the second one, as soon as like, I was literally counting down for that book. And then like once it hit midnight, I ordered it. I was that excited for it, so I do have a knit for that one. I'll show that one in a second, but I do have other yarn that I just caked up. So this is my kind of fancy yarn. So they're 50-gram cakes, and it's the Nuna Marisol, and one is an Aquarius, and the other one is in. Let me see what the other one is. Elderflower. So it's luxurious extra fine merino wool and mulberry silk blended with bamboo source viscose. So 40% wool, 40% silk, and 20% viscose. This was on sale not too long ago, and so I figured I would make a pair of mittens with it. I was on the fence with the pattern that I would choose, but I feel like I found one that I would really like with it. It so again, they're pretty bright, but I like that they're going to be made into mittens and not something so close to my face because I did knit something that I love. Um, I was thinking I might hold on to it because it was just one of those knits where you just look at the finished product and you're like, wow, this is amazing because it's um, Boylan knit. Boylan, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's Caitlin Hunter's, and it's one of her patterns with the fish. And I use the blue and yellow. I've said this in other videos, maybe not recently, but I'm picky about blue against my skin because um, some blues just, it's not gonna go against my skin. So, um, that was a cow, and I was thinking maybe if I use like other shades, I might use it, but I love looking at the finished product and thinking like how amazing it is. It was a fun knit, and I love the way that it turned out. But I have it, I feel like I narrowed it down to two patterns, but probably in another video I'll show the pattern that I went for. So one of the books that I have is The Knit Like a Latvian, and it's 50 knitting patterns for a fresh take on traditional Latvian mittens. So Latvia is one of my main places that I want to visit. I love the hobby wool yarn, and it's in Riga, and they're known for their mittens and knitting, and I just love their wool. And um, she does sell the wool on Etsy, or sell the yarn on Etsy, and it's super inexpensive compared to like what you see here. But the shipping is so expensive that I can't really justify it most of the time. The times that I've gotten it were basically times where I bought like three different sets. Like she has different mitten sets that like the colors are already picked out for you in the yarn. And the shipping was almost the same as like what the product was. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll get this now. But for the other ones to like get individual hanks of yarn, it's so expensive. It's like $18 shipping, and then it increase like when you try to add more to the cart. So I haven't gotten any from there, but I do really love the yarn. It has, well, the Hobby Wool has my favorite shade of red because it's like a berry red, and it's just, I love that depth that it has to it. Um, but I have other books of hers. So there's the accessories one, and then there is a soft book, and there is a new book that, well, it's a book that came out pretty recently, but I'm not trying to weigh down my stuff, so I haven't gotten it, and it might be easier to like get it in the future anyway. But this paper here is one that I was considering. So there was another pattern that was a free pattern in Ravelry, but I didn't print it out. Of course I could print it out, but I don't know. I'm like, maybe I'll just save it for another time. So I also have this pattern. It's the sheepish, yeah, sorry, sheepish, sheepish mittens, and I thought that these were really sweet. This is in black and white, but they originally had it in like a green and beige color for this pattern. Um, I was thinking about that one, but I feel like the one that I'm about to show, kind of balances it out in a way, or it still is going to be a bright set of mittens. I can't really, I'm not going to take that personality out of it, but I feel like the pattern I'm about to show kind of balances it out with the traditional symbols in the pattern. So it's the Mara fingerless gloves. I will cover the chart, but they're right there. So there's another page of, for this. So the mittens are down here. And there's the Latvian braids here. There's the notches at the bottom, or like the picot, or like maybe the shell looking type of, or scalloped edging at the bottom. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but I do love a Latvian braid, and there's two of them in the pattern, well, per mitten. So there's a symbols guide on here too, and the sign of Mara, and I don't know if I'm saying that right because there's a symbol on top of the A, but the deity of earth and water and all of the creatures within. Mara is the protector of women, especially mothers and children. She is goddess of the earth. And then the cross of Mara, cross of crosses. So these are symbols within the pattern, um, related to fire, house, and protect, oh my God, protectivity, fertility. It guards, blesses, and brings happiness. So I just feel like with this pattern, it, oh no, there's three Latvian braids in here. Yeah, I see it on this picture here, and then two here. You might be able to see it. So, unless if I'll think about if I do the notches or not. Mainly because I don't want the thickness of the notches, because some methods, or at least the method that I've looked into, it's folding it. So you're folding the knit, and that could be a good thing for like the wrist area to keep it warm and also for um, to be less spacey. So I I'll think about it, but as of right now, I'm okay with not doing that. So that was one of my plans. I have something that I keep bringing in and out of the works, and I think it might be coming into the works for two reasons. So I've had these knitted socks for almost, well, since last Christmas, I believe, like towards the very end, because they came out with this yarn for the Cascades Yarn Heritage. And I'm like literally almost done with it, and yet I'm not finishing it. So this is, I have it in this cozy, but there's this here too that I'm being careful about because it's a self-striping yarn, so I don't want to break the sequence of it. But I've been in the mood to knit on them, so that's a good sign. I do love this. I love the Heritage print yarn from Cascade Yarns. I think it's like one of my favorite sock yarns, even though I don't knit a lot of socks, but I am picky about sock yarn. More picky than I am about most yarn because I don't know, like I'm just like ticklish, but I can wear super woolly yarns on like as a sweater and other parts of my body, like the mittens that I just finished. They'll most likely be gifts, but they're Shetland wool. They're not necessarily soft. I guess they have their own type of softness to them. But this is soft and I really love them. Um, Still only my first sock out of the pair, but I'm hoping since it's still, well, what is it? It's September. I will have enough time to just knit these for this coming for the cold seasons, and then I won't have to wait until the following year to finish them up. So maybe I don't do holiday knits because if I do holiday knits, they're just gonna be sitting. That's another thing. But um, a thing that I just changed up with it is the needle. So these are fixed needles, so they're not my interchangeable ones. They're the only size ones that I have. Surprisingly, they've lasted this long. I'm holding it like a wand, but I'm surprised about them because they're US 1 needles, so they're like basically they're a little thicker than toothpicks, or maybe even the same size as toothpicks actually. And they're the regular size. They're not the shorties. I'm surprised that I have them still because I kind of just like put them wherever and they've lasted because I have snapped the smaller needles. I There was another small needle that I did snap, but I have been trying to be delicate with this one because I was here like maybe 2 days ago. And I know it's not like a lot of progress because they're literally socks, but for me that like I don't really knit socks because I don't really like knitting socks. Maybe I might if I continue to use these because they're the only sock needles that I've liked to use. I'm trying to be careful with them, and I don't think I'm going to be using them like with color work or anything, but I've been enjoying using them. They don't slip and slide. Um, they're size 1, so even when you work the magic loop, there isn't any gaping here sometimes that you had to really fasten it or tighten it, like secure it so you don't get like a line to show where your magic loop starts and ends. Um, it's been really nice. I have been reaching for this, so I have to see whether or not it's because it's a holiday knit and I just don't really do them that often. Like once the holiday passes, then it'll just be sitting. But I have, again, also been known to not like to soft knit. I feel like um, there are people that really love to knit socks, and I'm not saying that there's anything bad about knitting socks. I feel like knitting mittens is like the equivalent to people liking sock knitting. I feel like I like a lot of pizzazz on my hands, so I like the thought of mittens, and um, I wear my boots a lot all year round, so that's another thing. You don't really see any of my socks aside from if I wear like work shoes. So I have these green Adidas, and they're like a forest green, and then they have pink and white. I like those, but to that extent, there's nothing else that shows my socks. So I really try to prioritize knits that I feel like will benefit benefit me in some ways, and one of the ways is like, sorry, I'm just knitting around, is being satisfied or happy that I'm working on it. And a lot of times, like, socks just haven't done that for me. So I'm hoping that maybe one of these days, and maybe it'll come soon, where I'll enjoy it more because I do have a Moomin sock pattern book that I was mainly thinking I could use it for knitting pouches or using the charts for other things aside from socks. But maybe. And again, I don't think I'll be using these needles for those, but it's nice. Let me see what else I have. So I was talking about making an adjustment for my one of my projects. And let me just move some things around because I have a lot of things here, but I started the Seriola. Let me just get the book. It's a little behind where my laptop is. So, from the Nidhi Kalevala Volume 2, I showed the Seriola, and it's like an aquatic knit. I love the pattern. I love the one of the colors that I used. I just say that because I love the other one too, but that was the adjustment. So the green one, and I don't know if you can see it, there's so much like depth to this, and that's why I love heathered yarn. This was sale yarn. I got three of them, and it's one of the fancier yarns that I got really lucky with. Um, so it's the Floor Willis Story 100% Kent lamb's wool, sourced and produced in England, the Fibre Co. It is in the colorway Heaven. So I really love the way that it's knitting. I love the way that it looks. It's just so beautiful to me. Um, it's really nice that I got the yarn cakes up at this yarn store. So this is what I have. And maybe it was like, maybe that's why my mind, well, I knew why. So I love the ribbing on it so much. I don't know if you could see. It's just so like amazing. So I went into the color work and I was being careful. So I keep my Norwegian thimble in here. This is the Harris Tweed coin pouch, but I wanted to use this to make sure that the color work was as evenly distributed as possible. And normally I would just adjust the color work with my hands, which is not that big of a deal. The only thing was, technically, you could use the same needles with both these yarns. That's what the recommended needle size. And I didn't gauge swatch either, so I wasn't really planning on doing that. So this is the contrast color. So you could see that it's tighter, and I was thinking maybe once it's washed it'll bloom a good amount, hopefully a pretty significant amount. So that was the main reason why I used the Norwegian thimble, because I didn't want any gaping. I didn't want any chances of gaping. Um, I figured that, I could do it without the thimble, but it's it's um it's one of those things where it looks nice and I don't have a problem with the color combination. I actually think like it's a super pretty one. But I was going through another bag that I had in another part of the basement because I have another place where I kept my projects, and there was the yarn that I've been gathering up, and it's one of those like hand dyed fancier yarns that I don't really go for. Luckily, I really love the ones that aren't the hand dyed too, but it's the Nutty Pine Fiber Co. And it's one of my favorite hand dyed brands. I love the color selection and the the different types of fiber content. The names are fun too. So this one is in the colorway Shell, and I do love this one. I feel like I'll definitely use it for other projects, but I really was thinking I have mixed and matched different weights of yarn before, and even when they do have the same recommended needle size and um, maybe the other variables with that too. I did knit a couple of stitches with the Lore and the 90 Pine Fiber Co. And it has the effect that I'm looking for as well. Only this one, I feel like they do match up better. So I will end up just unraveling the 3 rounds where I started the color work. Luckily, I didn't go far with it, and then I'll switch it out for this one. And it was like a debate because I've been both like gradually collecting that yarn over the past couple of years because it's expensive, and my kind of dream was to knit a whole garment using all the fancy yarn. And I just have a thing where I like to mix and match. I don't have a problem with it. So I have the other yarn and I wanted to just talk about them, but I feel like it will be a good match for this project, and I am so excited because it gives off like the sandy beach type of energy that I was going for. In this past year, I've been knitting like blue nonstop. And well, this is an aquatic one, but like kind of even beachier ones too, which is kind of like a surprise for me. Because I I've just grown like more fond of blue. I don't know because before I didn't really knit blue, and I am pretty like particular about like blue. So let me grab the other ones. Mm. So I have them in this bag right now. One of my Emma Ball bags. They're my favorite because of how much you could fit, and it's a drawstring. So I feel like it's like one of those bags that are meant for garments and color work specifically because I like to have all of my yarn together, and I use a lot of different colors for color work. So there are a couple here, and some of them have been checked around and like stored in different places, so they're not exactly how they were when they were first wound up. But I just wound up one. So I wound up one of the Oktoberfest ones, and this is so this one is in Bighorn DK. I have two of them. And at first I was like, well, if I'm not going to use them all together, which I felt like I could have definitely, I was thinking one pattern that just came to mind that has been like a mega insanely popular pattern that I didn't have anything like, I just never knit it because of mainly the style that I knit, but there's the ranunculus and it's using bigger needles. I was thinking maybe it could be a possibility that I could use it. I haven't checked the pattern or like what is the recommended yarn or um, needles, and because I heard you're using bigger needles, like much bigger needles, and um, that's the extent of it. I don't really know so much about it, but I just figured maybe I would make like a cropped garment. And what I have noticed is that I really love the ranunculus in like variegated colors because I don't usually use variegated colors, so they tend to kind of be in my stash. It's not like I don't like them, but I don't use them that much. I use a lot of solid colors, and that's why it's kind of a benefit, or like heathered colors at the most. That's why it's like a benefit for me to use um, like the non-superwash heathered yarns. The solid colors, I love those types of yarns, and I tend to either build on it in some way, or I could color block, or I combine the different colors, like two colors or more, to see what I come up with. I was like, oh, I could use that for that. Then I was like, for the other colors, I knew it was going to come up at some point because I've been planning on doing it for a long time. I've been wanting to make a third Maya cardigan. So this is my second Maya cardigan. So this is a free pattern. It blows my mind that it's a free pattern because so many people have knit this, and the amazing thing about this pattern is that you could, it smells really good. You could knit it using a different combination of colors, and it looks completely different from another Maya cardigan that has other colors. So I did mess with the pattern. It is a free pattern. I know I made my notes. I have other storage for my patterns, but apparently this is where I just throw the patterns in if I don't sort them out. But some of these I haven't knit and then I want to, but some of them I have knit, and there's a couple of them that are on Ravelry, so it's not like the biggest priority to have them with me on hand. But the Maya cardigan pattern is one that I do want on hand because of how much I wrote on it, and I have done a couple of things to this. Again, it's a free pattern, but I have written on it. And then I wrote a couple things on the on one of my knitting notebooks too. So in the general construction, they or the designer wants you to knit the sleeves first, and then I didn't weave in the ends for some of the stuff, so there's still that area. But um, what I did was I knit the body first, and then I knit the yoke, and then I kept the area open for the sleeves. So after the body and the yoke were finished, I carried on to knit down instead of knitting up like they ask you to, because knitting sleeves isn't like a big incentive for me to finish a project. I feel like if I knit the sleeves first, I won't be as motivated to finish it. I'll just be kind of a little bored. I can see why people think like it's great to do the sleeves first. I don't actually mind knitting them. Some people don't like knitting sleeves. The I don't mind knitting sleeves, but I also don't want to knit the sleeves first. I want to see like as much of the product as I can and then finish them off with the sleeves. So for this, I did make 3/4 sleeves. The next one, I want to make full length sleeves just because of where the color work lands. I get to around 42 stitches and I feel like it's a comfortable thing. So that would probably be the main thing that I would do. And other than that, like the other parts of the pattern, I won't adjust as much. But they were telling you to go at a certain length, and then so I was working with like the amount of stitches that I start off with and the amount of stitches that um, they say that you'll have, but then they give you the length, like the centimeters, and you can convert that. It's a European pattern to inches if you want to do that. But because I was knitting it backwards, I was trying to find the rate of how I would decrease because I wasn't increasing, and then where I would be at certain points of it. So I do a lot of 3/4 length sleeves, but um, I for the next one I do want them slightly longer. And some of the notes, knit 18 rounds, then short, and then start decreasing from 68 to 48. Um, and then I adjusted it to get to 42 because I do tend to like 42 towards the end of my sleeves. I did a couple of things, 31 rows, and then I did some math here, then start decreasing. Um, Knit regularly for 1 to 5 rows, and then at some point I decreased, and then once I get into the pattern and I start to see where I'm at, then the notes will start to come together. And the thing is with this pattern, oh, and if you are doing the same thing that I'm doing, for when you're combining it, there's a combine section. Does of the number that you end with doesn't include the underarm stitches, but for the chart specifically, this is an interesting chart because you have to be careful with. So the chart is 1 through 17, and two stitches 2 through 17 are the ones that you're going to be repeating, and then you're going to omit the first stitch. So you're only going to knit the first stitch, because if you include the first stitch while you're repeating it over and over again, it's not going to turn into like the chevrons that you're looking for. The motifs or like the pattern is going to be distorted. You might not see it like super clearly, like it might just show that it's slightly a little different, but it's going to be like a sharper chevron if you go by that rule of thumb for this pattern. I'm not sure how many patterns do that, um, but this is one that you have to keep in mind for that. Otherwise, if you are looking for a steeked cardigan, this is a nice pattern and it's such a beautiful one. You don't even have to steek it if you don't want to. You could just keep it as a regular sweater. But steeking, once you steek something, at least for me, you just want to steek like everything. So the concept of steeking is like you knit in the rounds, you Ideally, it's better, or not necessarily better, but it is a good or nice thing to knit in the round for your color work. So you're not knitting back and forth with your color work. So there are patterns that you do knit back and forth with your color work. Um, but essentially, with your sneaking, you're leaving some extra stitches here, and then you're cutting it open. And then you could add your button bands or whatever your project is, like your zipper or something. Or maybe you're not steeking that area. Maybe you could steek other parts of the sweater, like more traditional, like Norwegian patterns. You might want to steek for maybe the sleeves or something, or the some parts of your neck if you want to do that too. But it's a nice method to get accustomed to so that if you are somebody that likes to do color work a lot, that's something that you could have and have in your arsenal, and you could do it for lots of different projects. So, um, another thing, non-superwash is usually the recommended yarn for that. Something that's sticky, not as slippery, that there's certain yarns that people say that are really nice for work and color work, and for those specific things like cutting your work open, it's nice for that too. But it's an hour. I'm gonna end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me see if I have anything else actually. I, hopefully I don't, but I'm sure I'll bring it up in another video. So I'll see you guys in another video. Bye.